So hi everyone, my name is Diane, social manager for NIM. It was me also last week with Alexi on previous space. So this is the second space of our new, hopefully weekly Twitter Spaces series. I hope you'll be enjoying it. And today, as I have said, who does a lot of stuff within Web3. And would you like to introduce yourself, Seb?
Yeah, of course. I'm Sim. I hold a couple of hats, and I try to do all of the things as good as I can. I'm the founder of Interoff Ventures. We're an early stage venture fund investing in infrastructure and applications building in the Interchain ecosystem. So we focus on things like scalability, interoperability, privacy, custody, and other infrastructure that's way more scalable and easier to use. That's one hat. The other hat is, I guess I'm a podcaster. I'm also the host of Epicenter. We've been around since 2013 and have interviewed over 500 founders and builders and investors in this space. I also host another podcast called The Interop, which is a little bit more focused on the Interchain ecosystem. So a lot more, Cosmos and Cosmonaut people on there. And then finally, we also organize the Nebula Summit, which we're really excited. NIM is a sponsor of this year. Mm-hmm. And Nebula Summit is the Interchain Builders Conference that's happening in Paris in July. And you can find more information about Nebula Summit at nebular.builders.
Yeah, we're also going to be sharing more about Nebular as it gets closer. Super excited to sponsor the event as well. Do you want to tell us more about what is Nebula Summit exactly, an overview of it and kind of the goal of the summit that you're organizing? And is it like a yearly one? Has it happened before? Is this new?
Yeah, so it's yearly from the perspective that this is the second year running, so it is now a recurring thing. We'll see how long that goes, but the goal really is to have Nebula Summit be every year, and so Nebula Summit is a conference for Interchain builders or people who are interested in learning more about the Interchain and the Interchain technology stack. So it's a technical conference, so it's 2 days of very depth and technical talks by some of the leading builders and thinkers in the Interchain ecosystem. We are also hosting a sort of prelude to Nebula Summit the day before. So Nebula Summit is on July 24th and 25th, right after HCC. So it's the Monday and Tuesday after HCC. And the prequel to Nebula Summit will be Nebular Hack Day. And that's happening on July 23rd. And Nebular Hack Day is all about learning how to use hands-on the Interchain stack. So we'll be giving with our partners will be giving some workshops there. So you can come with your laptop, pop up in your command line, VS Code, and learn how to utilize Neutron. For example, we'll have a Neutron workshop. We'll have a workshop with Juno as well about CosmWasm. DYDX will be giving a workshop teaching people how to use their API, and our other sponsor, OKP4, will be giving you a workshop on data governance. So it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be 3 days of intense learning, I hope, for people who are interested in the industry.
Yeah, this sounds really intense. It sounds like it's really developer focused, am I right?
Yes, so that's the goal. I mean, the goal here is to get people to further their knowledge and understand how the stuff works. So it is a technical conference. I mean, that's not to say that people without technical ability shouldn't come. Everyone's welcome to come, of course, but it is a technical conference, and expect technical content.
Right. And for those who don't have much technical background or capability, can you explain a bit what is Interchain? What does it mean exactly?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a moving target, and it's been changing over the last couple of years. So, the Interchain for a long time, I think, was synonymous with the Cosmos ecosystem. A lot of people, I think, are familiar with the Interchain Foundation, which is the foundation that sort of stewards and helps fund a lot of the technologies that came out of that project. But the Interchain is a lot more than that. The way I see it is the Interchain is the network of applications and blockchains and services that leverage a specific stack or par stack, and that the components of that stack are the Cosmos SDK, IBC, CosmWasm, and a couple of other technologies. And I think that definition is going to continue to evolve. I think that in the future, we might use this term to also include more EVM-based blockchains or EVM-based rollups and across other domains as well. And that's going to happen when, as we have better interoperability between all of those systems, where it becomes more seamless for users, as applications develop that leverage all of these different domains at once without users really being aware of the underlying state upon which their transactions are being settled. And yeah, I think that this term in the interchain is going to continue to evolve, and I think is an apt term to use when describing the underlying infrastructure of Web3 applications.
Okay, that's very interesting. Will you be like speaking yourself at the conference, or maybe talking about Interchain? Or since you're one of the organizers, can we expect to see you in one of the talks?
I hope so. I mean, we're trying to leave as many speaking slots for builders and other founders in the space. I'll certainly be there and participate in a panel or something like that. But there's so many really smart people that are coming to the conference, and we only have a limited time. So see if I can slot myself in there. But I will talk at HCC about the Interchain ecosystem and the interoperability solutions that allow the EVM space and the Interchain ecosystem to interoperate. So yeah, people can check that out if they want.
Cool. And I'm also curious, do you invite the projects that have been invited to Nebular or that are coming have applied? Is there French majority since it's based in Paris, or really like more international than just French?
Yeah, so it is actually pretty international. I mean, we do have quite a few French teams that are going to be there. Obviously, being in France, I'm based in France. But beyond that, because it's ECC, and I think that's really the kind of advantage of hosting a conference right after ECC is that there will be quite a few people in town, and we can kind of piggyback off of the folks that are keen on staying in Paris for a couple extra days. And, Paris is great. So, all kinds of good excuses to stay in Paris after ECC, and Nebula Summit is certainly one of them.
Yeah,
and no, just to say, there's also lots of other Interchain and Cosmos related events going on. So after ECC, sort of Cosmos season kicks off in some sense, because Awesome Wasm is happening on Friday. That's on the 21st, I believe. That's Awesome Wasm is a hackathon that's happening in Berlin the week before ECC. I meant to say Osmocon is happening on the 21st. Osmocon is Osmosis's conference. And also Modular Summit is happening on the Friday, and on the Saturday, that's the 21st and 22nd, that's the Celestia conference. So if you're looking to learn more about modular blockchains, you should definitely attend that one as well. And then we'll start on the Sunday with Nebula Hack Day.
Yeah, sounds like fun. We also at NIM are going to be in Paris for a while, and we often go there as well. And we all around Europe, really, there's a lot of really good tech events, Web3 events like this. Most recently, the Prague Blockchain Week. I don't know if you attended yourself.
Which one?
The Prague Blockchain Week. There was a Gateway to Cosmos.
Oh, yeah, no, I couldn't make that, unfortunately, because I had some family obligations. But
all right.
I heard it was really good.
Yeah, I went there myself. I met people, developers as well. I was manning the booth. So if anyone met me, hi. Nice to talk to you again. But yeah, sure. So maybe let's move on to like your podcast. I wanted to talk about your podcast because you have two. You have Epicenter, of course, and the Interop. So can you tell us a bit more about them? Like, how did you get the idea to start a podcast, and like the two different podcasts as well? I know they're quite different, and you also have like other hosts that are working with you for Epicenter.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago. So, the story you tell yourself after so long maybe changes. But I think what I remember back in 2013 when I wanted to start podcasting about Bitcoin at the time was just understanding more about the technology. And, I will say this, and I when I first discovered Bitcoin, I thought this is something where I could make money, right? Like, I saw this as a in my late 20s thinking, yeah, this is something where I can probably make some money. And and I came into it that way. And I say that because a lot of times we've interviewed people and we ask, hey, how did you get into Bitcoin? And the first thing people say is like, oh, I read this white paper and it was amazing, and it really resonated with me. And I think a lot of people came into Bitcoin thinking that they could make money, and then later the ideas and the philosophy and the tech and all that stuff kind of sticks with you later. So I'm gonna be about that. And then later the tech and the ideas and the philosophies, etc., kind of stuck with me. And then I wanted to really focus all of my time on this stuff. And so doing a podcast was a way to jump in really feet first. And I didn't do it alone. I was fortunate to meet Brian Crane, who is my co-founder at Epicenter. He's the CEO of Chorus One, the staking provider. And we built this thing together. We were just two of us for probably the first year and a half or something like that, until we started bringing on more hosts, more different opinions and viewpoints. And so Meher Roy joined us a little bit later. And then sometime after that, Sunny Agarwal of Office also joined us as a host. Later on, Friederike Ernst joined as a host from Gnosis. Or maybe she was on first before Sunny. Anyway, but yeah, they joined a bit later. And now, so there's the five of us, and Felix Luch also from Course One also joins once in a while, and we'll have guest hosts here and there. But Epicenter is really, we try to, I think what Epicenter is in the ecosystem is a through line that has followed the ecosystem since its early inceptions, that has tried to be a sense-making mechanism to understand how the space is evolving, how the industry is evolving, while maintaining a high level of integrity around the projects that we interview, and also educating with a high technical expertise. I think that's a 10-year-old podcast. Obviously, evolves over time, but I think that's, looking back, that's the impact that we've had in the space.
Yeah, you made it over 500 episodes, right?
Yeah, we just celebrated 500 a couple of weeks ago.
That's crazy. Over 10 years. Wow. And how about your other podcast? I understand it's more Cosmos related.
Yeah, so it's Cosmos Interchain. So the Interop I started about a year and a half ago. It started off as a fun side project to do more of a YouTube style live stream format, and more focused on Cosmos and the Interchain, because I was getting more interested in that space. Some people have one person's described it as the PR of Cosmos podcast. Well,
right.
I kind of like that. I mean, I like NPR, so maybe that's where the influence comes from. But for Europeans, NPR is like National Public Radio, like U.S. public radio shows and podcasts, and I do listen to a lot of those. So maybe that's where some of the kind of the style comes from. But yeah, with the Interop, it's really about understanding deeply the technologies that make up the interchain. So, for example, recently we just had Bodoo from Polymer. They're building a transport layer for IBC, which is the interoperability protocol that allows chains to interoperate and send messages to each other in this way. And we went really deep into IBC and how it works. A few weeks ago, we had Fade of Neutron. It's a CosmWasm chain that's been launched on the Cosmos Hub security model, and so we went deep in governance there as well. So we do a weekly show every Thursday and try to go as deep and technical as possible, while also getting an understanding of where the product, right, that we're featuring fits within the broader ecosystem.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I think it would be great if you could link one of those under our spaces, like tweets, so that people can see it later. I think because we have a lot of Cosmos fans here, and I mean following us, and could be interesting for a lot of people. So I think that would be great.
I'll put it right here right now. Yeah.
Cool. I understand you previously interviewed Harry Halpin and Jaya, who are our CEO of NIP. So that was a pretty long time ago. I checked it out. And apart from these memorable guests, did you have any other guests that you remember very well, or like you would like say something about them all the time? Someone asked you. Like, I'm quite curious to know.
Sure. Yeah. So I didn't do that interview with Nim and Jaya. I did another interview with Harry at ECC in 2020. This was like right as the pandemic was starting. He was there with, I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, but Julian Assange's dad.
Okay.
So if people search for Epicenter Harry Halpin, they'll find that interview. We did like an hour-long conversation where we talked about privacy. There you go. I just tweeted the podcast and the conference. Yeah, we talked about privacy, and we also talked about the Julian Assange's situation at the time, which was that he was held up, I think, in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, and that was really fun conversation. I really like talking to Harry. I think he's he has quite like a clear vision about the open web and people's rights on the internet, and also people's right to privacy. He's very much like a sense-making character, right? And I've drawn a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah, and he's very funny as well.
Yeah.
It's funny, just now you were telling us about NPR, right? And when I went to your profile, and I wanted to know what NPR meant because I'm European, and I looked it up, and I was like, no, it can't be. It must be like something like non-player character. But now that you say it, it makes sense. So yeah, that's just funny. But yeah, so you previously interviewed Harry, right, about privacy. So maybe we can get into that a bit more. Do you have any interest in the privacy area of Web3? Is this something that you're looking into more than in other areas, or what do you think? And like a project like NIM, like us, how do you see it fitting within the Web3 space? Because we have a lot of privacy projects, but not that many that are actually like used mainstream. And for NIM, this is what we want to go for actually pretty soon. So yeah, what do you see like NIM fitting into all of this, and like privacy using Web3 technology?
I think that I wrote about this like a few months ago. Earlier this year, I wrote our thesis for the fund, and part of our thesis is that privacy is an important component to the future of Web3. And currently, the way things are being built, it doesn't take into account the necessary need for privacy if we want Web3 to scale to billions of people. Like, look, the bottom line is this, is our capitalistic society can function because we have asymmetry of information between people and businesses. If we lived in a world where every company was able to independently audit the internal finances, business contracts, transactions of every other company, we'd be operating in a very different world. So there's that component. I think that, we talk about privacy all the time. I think a lot of times privacy is portrayed in the lens of governments or corporations being able to surveil citizens. That's true, and that's definitely a part of the issue. But the other issue is that there's this reality that we're able to operate in a capitalistic society because of privacy, because businesses can operate privately and don't have to reveal their next move or their contracts or their business relationships or transactions or finances or anything with anybody else. Unless you're a public company, there is some amount of it, but not at the sort of like deepest levels of, where every transaction is audited. So that's one thing. And I think it's going to be difficult for businesses to leverage crypto in a meaningful way if they don't have some of assurance of privacy. And of course, people use products built by businesses. So it's sort of like there is kind of a chicken and egg problem here. And I think that it's critical for there to be options for businesses to be built on blockchains that are private. From the other perspective, right, from the perspective of government surveillance or the arguments that large corporations are able to utilize the data they have, and then they have a very superior advantage by leveraging kind of all the data that they're able to collect on the internet. Lots of smarter people have talked about that, and there's like some pretty obvious reasons why individuals should also have the ability to be private. I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I think in the realm of finance, given the current regulatory environment, and certainly the regulatory frameworks around traditional finance, there's a real uphill battle when it comes to ensuring privacy as kind of an enshrined right in the future of if crypto finance becomes the norm.
And
I'm happy to go in more detail there. But in the last 20 years, traditional finance has gone more and more in the direction of knowing every user of the financial system, opening any sort of bank account, insurance policy. We're both in France, so I think from that perspective, like it's clear to anybody in Europe that the AML KYC requirements for any type of transaction has only increased over the years. For instance, in France, it's illegal to pay anyone in cash anything over 1,000 euros, I think. It used to be 3,000. The pressures to have people comply with more transparency around their personal financial transactions exists in the traditional financial system, and it's only accelerating. And it will only accelerate with disappearance of the further reduction of dependency on cash and more dependency on like electronic payments. With blockchains, I do think that it will be an uphill battle for the industry and for all of us to explain to policymakers why everything should be private and the reasons why our kind of civil liberties should be protected by having all our transactions on blockchains be private. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I think that there's a real risk that we end up in a situation where all our transactions are recorded, where there is no ability for private transactions or transactions to happen off system. And that would be pretty catastrophic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is true that this is definitely a risk, and that's what we're fighting against here at NIM. And we hope we make this not happen in the future. We hope to have flexibility. Actually, last week I had a Twitter space with Alexi, our COO, and we were talking about how in Switzerland they recently passed into the constitution for digital integrity. And that was like a step forward for the country. And it's something that in Europe could be seen as like a better step towards the future in terms of privacy. We have Candice here who wanted to ask you a question, so I'll let her speak. Hi, Candice.
Hey, Candice.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, all these Frenchies today. It's great.
Yes. We're taking over Web3, we're taking over Cosmos.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've been listening, obviously, since the start of this to the spaces. So I have a question. That'll be quite interesting to hear your point of view. We talked about obviously, like surveillance capitalism, which is obviously from the private sector. We have the government surveillance, and then we have others like us at NIM and also other privacy preserving projects that are trying to come up with solutions to fight against these surveillance. What if the level or the split, or maybe just the responsibility that lies with just the one party, whereas the government, the private sector, developers, users, like what do you think is a split of responsibility for us to actually change the surveillance landscape that we're all subjected to in our digital lives?
You mean as citizens? So basically, you're asking like, what is the level of responsibility of citizens, the industry, perhaps the broader public sector, private sector, to move the needle in terms of having more privacy?
Yeah, so if you look at traditional business models, we look at
Yeah.
demand and supply, right? Like, if there's demand, then, there'll be a supply. But with Web3, I think we're quite different, a lot of innovative sort of building, like if we build, they will come sort of mantra. Do you think it's the case for privacy? Like users tend to favor usability over privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Should they be educated to actually demand for more privacy? Should builders be the one that build better solutions and better services, products, so that we can get the users to use it? Like, why are people using WhatsApp as opposed to Signal?
Yeah, people use WhatsApp as opposed to Signal because it's convenient, it's easy, and it has lots of marketing dollars behind it. I think those are some of the reasons. I mean, there might be other reasons, but yeah, look, I mean, more education is always better than less education. So I'm in favor of education, and I think people should be educated not only on privacy but lots of other topics in order to make more informed decisions about how they live their lives and how they consume digital media and how they utilize technology, and understanding where the risks are and what their comfort levels are with those risks. So education is going to be something that we should all thrive for, and that's what we do. That's what all of us do. That's why we're here. That's why we're building. That's why we're on this Twitter Spaces. That's why I have a podcast. That's why NIM has marketing people, and that needs to continue.
I definitely agree that we do need to mix the good UI UX with like a real private solution. And I do think that we're coming to that. I think there will be a point where we can have a really good product that can go mainstream and like solve some of these problems that we're having. And yeah, there's a lot of like, it's easy to be pessimistic, and I can see the angle. I hope that we can like be positive about it and try our best and then see if it will or not.
Yeah, but I think the industry has a huge role to play also, because people, I mean, like, and I'm a person, we're all people, right? We all have, beyond, our jobs and the things that we focus on and our families and our hobbies, etc. Like we don't have time to go lobby politicians. And that's, on the issue of our digital civil rights, but also on lots of other issues. So I think this is where industry players that have aligned views should cooperate and coordinate to be more effective at educating policymakers. And so, for example, in France, we have this organization called ADAN, which has done tremendous work educating policymakers and was instrumental in ensuring that the MiCA regulation wasn't going to eliminate or essentially regulate out of existence DeFi. That was an industry initiative. It's thankless work. It's necessary work. There's also EUCI based in Brussels, and they're also doing a lot of work on some of the bills that concern data and Web3 and crypto. That's a powerful tool as well that companies in the space should stand behind. If you're a startup, you're like a scrappy startup, and you just raise funds and you're busy building. Like, you don't have time to go out and lobby your member of parliament. I know this because I helped co-found that, and I was a member of the team for some time there. It's a job in itself. Like, you have to know and understand the codes and practices and where, who the members of parliament are. And there's all this. I mean, lobbying is a profession, and it's a profession for a reason. It's because it's a lot of work.
It's funny that you say that. In a previous life of mine, like Web3, I was actually doing a lot of government regulations back in Australia. And to your point, it was a lot of work. It was back in those days where we had to actually turn up at Parliament House, knock on the doors, speak to them, write letters, type letters out, print them out, address it by hand, and actually mail it to the offices. there was a lot of time, to your point. I think a lot of startups here in Web3, we want to do things a bit differently. I feel like there may be some sort of traditional businesses in Web2 things that we could learn from sometimes, maybe, talk about product marketing or, user consumer behavior. Maybe right now, a lot of the government relations and regulations is focused on cryptocurrencies, the actual, security tokens itself, but there isn't a lot of sort of people who are lobbying for actual real world users of crypto and Web3. Maybe I should start something. Who wants to join me?
For sure. Also applications and better user experiences convert into users, and those users also at some point become the policymakers that are making the regulation, etc. So all of these things kind of playing together, the education, people being educated about their rights, about the risks of using some of these technologies, the industry pushing the right messages forward and lobbying. For example, like the Coinbase case in the States is a great example, and Coinbase has really kind of pushed messages in the public to try to shift public opinion, and also creating products that people actually use that are helpful to people's lives.
Yeah, definitely agree. It's nice that we're chatting like this, and you yourself are a podcaster, and you also do a lot of these kind of talks where you can educate people about these things and a lot of different stuff as well. And this is what we also want to do here through this Spaces series. So I'm glad you joined us. We'll be wrapping up very soon. We'll have a community call at 4 p.m. on our Discord. So if anyone else wants to join that, there'll be that going on. Candice, do you have any follow-up questions for Seb?
Not for now, but I think this topic could, this chat could go on, for a very long wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And if we start mentioning AI, I think it will just go on for 2 more hours as well. So maybe I won't get
too,
yeah. Yeah, maybe I won't get into AI just yet, but maybe next time as well. We could. So yeah, is there anything else you would like to share about or discuss on here before you go?
Yeah. I just want to encourage everyone to check out Nebula Summit. If you look here, actually in the participants, the Nebula Builder account is there, green icon. Check it out. Look at our speaker lineup. We'll have the agenda out very soon. Get your tickets if you want to come by. Tickets are pretty cheap, and there's also some discount codes floating around. So it's not very difficult to find a 25% discount code for Nebula.
That's very nice.
And also, just putting that out there.
Yes, and I think Candice, you'll be there as well, right? At Nebular.
Yes, I will be. Always going to be at all the Cosmos projects as much as possible.
Is Nim going to have a booth?
No, we have Max out there for our going to speak. He's going to talk a bit about how developers can actually integrate NIM on the Cosmos SDK blockchain. So that's going to be very useful. And we can't wait to see NIM take over Cosmos.
Yeah, we can't wait. Well, that was amazing. Thank you, Seb, and thank you, Candice, for jumping in as another guest. Really great chat. And I think we can follow up in the comments as well. If anyone has any other questions you want to ask Seb or me or Candice, please drop it in the comments and we'll definitely get it out.
Yeah, ping me on Twitter.
Okay. Well, we're cutting it short a bit, but we don't have that much time. So that's unfortunate, but maybe we can get on a podcast with Seb sometimes. So yeah, thank you for tuning in today.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.